Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let me just get myself sorted here and find everything out. I hope everyone is well. It is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream talking about more nonsense. Now, it has been a rather quiet week again this week. Well, it's been quiet to today. Until today, everything blew up. But I can't talk about what blown up today. But we are going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that might have blown up today on the bits that I'm not allowed to talk about, on the bits that might have been said today or might not have been said today. But anyway, we're going to talk about what I think is the new DJI Mini 2 edition. And I want to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some Tmotor flight controllers, which I can no longer find online because there was so little to find. It was them. And then we'll talk a bit about Walksnail, because there is a bit to talk about Walksnail, because there's a beta firmware apparently that I don't have that has audience mode in it. And there's been a video posted on that earlier, which is quite interesting, because if what I've seen is right, then it looks a lot better than DJI's was. But there was also something else by Walksnail, which I'm not allowed to talk about, that someone may have accidentally leaked and then removed. But I can't talk about that, so we'll have to move on. Now, as always, let me just get this message off the screen with YouTube harassing me. As always, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat tonight. I will try and answer them. I don't think tonight's going to be a very long live stream, if I'm honest, simply because of the pure lack of anything that has really gone on in FPV or drones this week. But there has been a little. But what we will have is probably a bit more time than normal to be able to answer any questions or anything like that. Now, I don't have any biscuits this week, but I do have what is left of a cup of tea, because I started it 20 minutes ago. I've got half a can of Pepsi over there, which I'll finish in a minute. But looking around, the old biscuit situation is looking pretty poor. Now, let me just catch up on the chat and say hello to everyone. We have the first man, Dane, how are you? Mike Bergman, how are you, my friend? Elmo Hawk, how are you? TS13 FPV, Mike Bergman again. Expander, how are you, my friend? Elijah, TK, Bobby Bags, Ghost Rider, Flush FPV, how are you? Hello, Type, how are you? Hope you're well, my friend. Paul Taylor from sunny Florida, you lucky man. What's up? Hello, mate. How are you? Hope you're well. Now, I'm not going to go through everyone because I'll be here forever. 661, anyone else, I do apologize. Brian, everyone else. Now, for those who didn't see, I did pop onto Ken Heron's show this week. in the evening on, it was Thursday night, I popped onto the Ken Heron show. It was a privilege as always to be on there. I was away the early part of the week, so I couldn't actually go onto the Gary's one. But I was able to pop on and say hello to Ken, and that was a nice chat as well. And it was great to just pop on and talk about some of the other stuff, some of the DJI stuff as well. But again, I just want to say thank you for Ken. If you haven't seen it, he has actually put a cut of the video up on his website now as well. So for those who haven't seen, let me just, this is how prepared I am tonight. He has put a cut up of the live stream, which is this one here, where we all had a chat, and it was great to talk to Fly High on there as well. A great guy too, and it was just a privilege to be on there, as it always is. I always enjoy, you know, when we get invited onto a stream, and it was a privilege to be able to go on and say hello. So yeah, just a big thank you from me to Ken on that one. Oh, I see. I now have no desktop cam today. Just before we start, W1 Willy 1 FPV GPS stopped working after replacing the FT to a Speedy BF7 on my Nazgul V2. What could it be? It's got to be the UARTs. So make sure the UARTs and everything are correct. Make sure the TX and RX is correct and the UART's correct. That's the first port of call. Have you upgraded Betaflight? Remember, they've changed things a little bit. But yeah, check the UARTs first. The UART would be the first port of call. Making sure that you're on the right number in Betaflight and that there's no issues with the wiring. The TX and the RX are correct. Ian, if you had an Avata and wanted to go proper FPV, which drone would it be? Right, what I'm about to say is nothing to do with the fact that they are a company I work with. But I have to say I've been really impressed with all of the iFlight builds. And I know some people have had problems. I haven't. The Evoke is phenomenal, but also the Chris Rosser builds as well are also very good of their drones too. Now, there is a subset of people who have had lots of issues with iFlight. I'm not convinced there's anything specific with iFlight. I think they probably sell more ready-to-fly drones than anyone else in the market. And as a result of that, they're going to be seen to have more problems. Now, what I will say about iFlight is this. I have seen some responses to support requests that leave a lot to be desired. Some of the responses users have posted and some of the things that I have been told raise questions, but I have never experienced that, and I don't believe for 1 minute it's en masse. But it would be wrong of me to completely ignore the fact that some people have said getting support out of iFlight is difficult. I don't think it is the norm. And I think it'll happen with any company. But overall, I have had the odd comment. If you're in the US, there's lots of good options, like, for instance, the Rotor Riot builds are very good, I believe. I think you do okay with a Rotor Riot build. I can't see them being bad. I've never tried one, but I just don't see them being bad. And there are a number of the FPV companies who do a good job. I think out the door, I would be going for an iFlight. But if you're in the US and you wanted to stay within the US, try, get FPV do their builds. I think Newbie Drone do some of their own builds, as does Rotor Riot. I don't think you'll go too far wrong with one of them either. I think you'll be all right. Just something on W1 Willy 1 FPV. Icon for GPS is on. Wiring is correct. Right, I've just thought of something. If you've re-changed the flight controller, if you've re-flashed it, have you done it with a full build and not the new reduced builds that's possibly left GPS out? If you haven't seen this, and JB's got a video on this, JB has a specific video on this issue, but make sure you flash it with a full build and not a reduced one. Let me just plug in this flight controller a minute and let me just check this. I think GPS is one of the issues that can be left off, but let me just look. Let me just find my Betaflight configurator because I got two versions. I've got an old and a new. So just make sure, and it will behave like it's normal if it is this. Betaflight configurator. Let me just check this. Config. What I'll do is I'll put this up. So when you go to the firmware flasher, and if I select the board, which is the Holy Bro, this is Holy Bro. Where's the H? Come on. What are they? That's the Coyote, isn't it? Whatever they... Coyote or whatever they bloody call them. There it is. H7 version 2. That's this one here. Right, so down here. Down here, you have... Look, the other options. So you've got core only, or you've got this, which will reduce the options that has available if you remove these. So just check when you're flashing it, you have everything here, the full build, GPS and everything. Just check that, because that will catch a lot of people out. GPS has been tagged. Just make sure you're outside. Other than that, have you got a VTX on it that's stopping... if you've got Avatar on it, it could be affecting the GPS. Gosh, a lot of leaks today. So, yeah. Let's just catch him down. So, yeah, iFlight. iFlight, I think, are a good option. I don't think you'll go far wrong with iFlight. I really, really don't. The Nazgul is a phenomenal aircraft. A phenomenal aircraft. It really, really is. As is the Chris Ross edition. Now, I've been flying a bit the last couple of days, a minimal amount, and my God, am I rusty. Oh, my God, I've really struggled this week. It's been cold, wet, and horrid. And I've been jumping between 3 quads, which are all tuned completely differently, and it's caught me out a few times as well. Something I really need to do is start making sure they're all tuned the same, just how they feel with the throttle position and all of this. Because I'm just hopping between quads doing testing, and one throttles you, one's there, and you're just not in the same zone as where you normally feel. Yeah, that can really catch you up. That really can. Okay, so what we're going to do first, and I haven't got... Why is my camera not working? I'm going to have to live fix this. 1 second. NVIDIA broadcast. Because it's decided to spaz out on me for some reason and stop working. Camera... Oh, it always changes to the wrong camera. I don't know why. See? Still not working. Way, there we go. Hi, JA. Hope you're well. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is this thing, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. However, DJI have released a new Mini, and the reason I find this interesting is because I still watch the camera drones, but I've been thinking about getting a Mini, and they've released a new Mini which they call the SE. Now, I'm going to label this the edition because it's the Mini 2 SE, and this is just typical DJI at their worst, right? So you got the Mini 2, which I'm going to open the page for, and the Mini 2 SE. Okay, so we've got the Mini 2, Mini 2 SE. Now, the Mini 2 has got OcuSync, records at 4K. If we just look at the base specs, okay, 249 grams. 1/2 0.3-inch sensor, records at 4K, 24, 25, and 30 frames a second. All fantastic, all nice. You've got bottom vision sensors, all the usual. They've now released, though, this SE edition, right, which is this one here. So they're calling it the SE, right, which in my head is second edition. What it actually is edition, because they've just completely gimped it. You look in the settings and the specs, it's still 246 grams, so it's a little bit lighter. But look, they've limited it to 2.7K recording. They've reduced the bit rate to 40 megabits a second from 100, which it was on the other one. So we get down here, it was 100 megabits a second. They've reduced it to 40 megabits a second. So what they've literally done is released a drone and gone, let's make it shitter. Let's just make it worse than the drone it's named under. Special is a term you could use for it. Skills Eliminated Edition. And look, it's still got downward vision sensors. It's still got OcuSync. But the fact is that they've completely gimped the camera. And it makes no sense at all. Now, it is cheaper than the Mini 2, to be fair to them. They have released it at a reduced price point, about £300 in the UK. Whereas the Mini 2 was like 419, and it is still available. But it is a really weird release. To call it the Mini 2 SE, they should have just called it the Mini Special Edition. Not Mini 2 Special Edition, because it's worse than the Mini 2. It just seems bonkers. Utter bonkers. It really does. But anyway, there's a new Mini out. It's not very exciting. Don't buy it, is my advice. In every way, it is light edition. Yeah, light would have worked. The mini light, it would anything like that. But calling it the Mini 2 is just, the worst thing with it is, it's disingenuous. It is going to cause people to get confused, because predominantly when you search for the spec of the Mini 2, you're going to come up with the main drone. The main one here. You're going to come up with this. So people will be looking, going, oh yeah, and this is where people get caught. This is in the gift category. This is in the category where people will be buying this for their kids, their friends, their family, their partners, not just people buying their first drone. And it really just is disingenuous, the way they've done this. And it is just another thing I just thought, you know what, that's not on. It just isn't. It really isn't. They could have called it anything else, but what they're doing is living off the Mini 2 name, but then providing you with a crapper version. It's just bad. And look, DJI have always had multiple models in their product stacks. They always have. They've always had a lot of models. That's normal. The Phantom 3. You had the Phantom 3 Advanced, the Phantom 3 Pro. The Pro was the top model. The Standard, the Advanced, the Pro. But just calling it an SE, released like a year or so after the original, and then making it worse, is just bad. It's just poor marketing, and it's really going to attempt to rip people off, because what's going to happen is people are going to go on YouTube and search for Mini 2 and watch a review and thought, that looks good, and what they're getting is not that drone. If it was the same spec or more, completely fair enough. But to gimp it is just not on. It's just not on. So no, it's another... I don't agree with what DJI have done here on this one. I really don't. And it might be cheaper, but the naming is confusing to users, and they should do better on that. They really should. So that's my little rant on that. I don't want it to go on forever, but that is my little rant on that drone. The light edition would be better. Special as in special, yeah. Thank you. Just catch up on the super chats. Hello, Mike. How are you? Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Catch you up. How are you doing? I hope you're safe and well. Robin Duckett, thank you for the £4.99. That's incredible. Mini 3 Pro, Eddie says, is the way to go. Best Buy has them for $625 with the Smart RC. That's a good deal. That's good. DJI heard the term limited edition and thought it meant limited as in crippled. Yeah, and this is the bit, as I've said, it's the way people will go on and read a review about the original one and then get caught up and then think it's the same product as and it isn't. You know, you should not make a product in the same product name stack that is less of a spec without it being completely clear. Like the term light. Like the term basic, standard, not SE. SE is generally deemed second edition. Generally in most people's terms, or special edition. But that would not automatically mean reduced specification over the original namesake model. So, that's poor on DJI. That is really poor. Chris Teff2S. Hi, mate. How are you doing? I've been trying to get the RadioMaster Ranger Micro Express RS module, but it's out of stock everywhere. Can I recommend an alternative? Yeah, most of the micro modules are good. There's not a bad one. There's not a bad one. Any of them will be fine. Just find one that suits your price point. Just find one that suits your price point. Look, the reason you can't get the modules is they've had a problem. They're fixing it. The new boards have been released. They're sending them out now. But that has held things back a little bit. And that has meant they're not the easiest to get hold of. And look, I have seen the criticism that has been labelled lately. And look, it's something I will probably mention in my next video when it comes to RadioMaster. RadioMaster have been an amazing supporter of this channel. What the criticism I've seen laid against them in recent releases has been from the point we do the review and the release to the point that people can buy the products, take the Boxer and the Ranger modules. There's been a delay, to say the least. Now, that may not be RadioMaster's fault, but I also am fully aware that riles people up. And I will probably say in my next review that whilst I've got this product here today, I don't know what availability is going to be like. It will be available in the future when you're able to buy it. And look, RadioMaster have been a huge supporter of this channel. And I really like them as a company. However, there is no question people have got a bit upset over the time involved. And I am aware of that. Have I tried the new Velocidrone yet? No, I've not. I haven't had a chance, but I will give it a try this week. I will give it a try this week. Just catching down on the chat. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is I've just seen some new flight controllers from Tmotor. However, I don't know if these are them. The Joker 679. Sorry, I flipped the other day when you guessed on Ken how I showed it. I'm related to drones. Okay, Joker, how are you? So the next thing I'm going to talk about is Tmotor have released some new flight controllers, but the problem I'm having is I don't know if these are them. I saw posts this week for new flight controllers from Tmotor, and they vanished. And I don't know where they are anymore. So I'm just going to very quickly do this because I don't know if these are the new ones because the Tmotor website says they're new, but I don't know if they are. So Tmotor's website has a new stack. It's called the F411 Lite and the F411 Lite plus the stack. Now, they look interesting. There's nothing particularly special here. They're lightweight flight controllers. What I did notice about them is there didn't look to be a lot on the boards. They look very bare. They really do look very bare. They've then got this ESC with them as well. STM32F411 still, which is interesting if this is the new one. But I'm a bit concerned this isn't the new flight controller. And I could be showing something which is completely old. I'd made a note of it this week to think, oh, Tmotor flight controller, that looks interesting. They're advertising it. And now I just can't find the posts anyway. So this may or may not be a new flight controller from Tmotor. I don't know. Their website says it's new, but I don't know if it is. And I can't find the post. If it is, it's got 8 megs of black box flash, but 411... interesting. It's an old SoC now. But then again, that is what people... you can get it. It is an analog controller. Because it does have the OST chip. But yeah, it is semi-interesting. Semi-interesting. It's just another... no, that's old. See, this is the thing. This is on their website. They definitely put posts out today... this week for a new flight controller, and I just can't find them. I've searched for them. They were on Facebook. I just can't find them anyway. So, they've maybe got new flight controllers. I can't tell you what they are because I can't find them. And I've even looked through Rotor Riot as well to try and see if I could find them on Rotor Riot, but I just can't find them anyway. It's bizarre. I don't know what they've done. I genuinely don't know what they've done. They've shared a post on new flight controllers. They've definitely shared a post on new flight controllers. But I just can't find it. And I'd already put it in the title when I was going to talk about it. So that's a crap show. They may have withdrawn the post. Possibly. I did look on Tmotor's Facebook page. I think it was an F7 as well. See, I've gone on Tmotor's Facebook page. And it's not on there. Oh, here we go. The Velox F7. Found it. It does exist. Here we go. Tmotor Velox F7 multifunctional freestyler flight controller for FPV. So, I did just found it. Interesting. So, if we look at the Tmotor website, look, it's not here. It's not here at all. It's just crazy. But there it is. We managed to find it. So, 8K gyro rate, integrated dual back, compatible with analog and HD, up to 8 motors, onboard baro, all the usual stuff. TVS diode, that caught my eye. I thought that's a nice little touch. And it comes with all of the cables. STM32F722. ICM 42688P. 16 mega flash, which is nice. And look, it's nothing special. But what I did notice about it, when I looked at it, I just thought, wow, that's a bare board. There really didn't look to be a lot on the PCB. What I really noticed about this more than anything was the lack of components on the board. Just like the SpeedyBee F7, basically, yeah. Just look how little is on this board. There's just so little on that side, it's crazy. It really, really is crazy. And then they're showing some pictures of motors. Now, when you look on the other side of it, on the back looks to just be BECs. There doesn't really look to be a lot else. I think Failsafe has found it as well. But yeah, just look at the lack of components on that PCB, which I just thought was interesting. Just thought that was interesting overall, that there really isn't a lot on there. Limited flash. They're saying 16 mega flash. Yeah, it looks to be a good design. And you just then got the back on the back with the flash ROM chip. It's a nice looking flight controller. It is a nice looking flight controller. Can I open that picture up bigger? You can't even open their pictures up bigger. There you go. There's that one there. So that's the back of it. We can now see what's on there. So we've just got the voltage regulators, the dual BECs, the Wimbledon flash chip, the OSD chip. We've got the TVS diode. But there's really very little on this thing. There really is very little on it at all. Let me just open up this one. And there we go. That's that side of the PCB. You know, component-wise, it is at an absolute minimum. Absolute minimum. You know, you got your gyro, the chipset, a couple of diodes down here, LEDs, transistors, some very basic componentry. But yeah, it is absolutely bare bone. Absolutely bare bone. And that's what I thought was interesting about it. It wasn't the fact that Tmotor had released a flight controller. It was the fact that they didn't look like there was anything on the bloody board. And someone said they like the yellow dampeners. There you go. It does come with yellow dampeners. So that's that. Not really exciting, but something there. Is it missing anything important? Well, I can't really tell because the spec is so bloody vague as well. Now, I know Failsafe had posted a link. Is that the same one I had? Let me just have a look. Oh, he's found a page with it on now somewhere else. There we go. Tmotor's website is just horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. But look, there's a new flight stack. That must be an... right, so that 16 meg is an external flashbond chip. So the F722 is probably the limited one then. I can't remember off the top of my head. So that'll be the flash chip for the black box 16 megabytes. DKFPV, how are you? So that's that one. Okay, if you got any questions, please do put them in the chat. Now, I just want to scroll up because there was a question earlier from someone. Was it Wes? I think it was. Wes. Did Wes ask something? Oh, thanks, Michael Walsh. Yeah, I just saw that on the Mini too. Let me just catch up. I think Wes asked about my video on the O3 system with regards to this 5.1 gigs behavior. Now, I haven't had a chance to do much more testing, but I have done a lot of testing over that week. And I haven't really found anything specific more. I haven't had a chance to go back and review what I've done. There is no question mine is... I think it's related to CE. I do think it's related to CE, but I need to retest. Now, the public hasn't seen a video that I put up on my Discord, and I might adjust it and put it up. But there is a video I've done... And the interesting thing about it is I managed to get the O3 system in 3 different states at the same time. So I managed to get the O3 system with the video on 5.1, the remote and goggles telemetry on 2.4, and the video telemetry on 5.8 or 5.7 something, but 5.8 band. And there's a point where I managed to get it in the 3 different positions, which is incredible. It's transmitting and receiving on 3 different frequencies with a large gap at the same time. Now, there are a lot of questions over if this 5.1 gigs behavior is normal. I still don't think it is. And look, I still think this is a horrible behavior that needs to be turned off. And whilst some people may think, well, it's not really a big deal, it's a big deal in the sense of no FPV antenna is really tuned for it. Now, someone did spot something interesting earlier, and that was TrueRC's spec for their DJI antennas. So let me go to TrueRC. TrueRC spec for their FPV goggles antennas goes down to 5.1 gigs. So if we say for DJI FPV, and we've got these new antennas for the XA Mark IIs, if we look at the spec, notice the frequency range, 5.1 to 6.7, but that is quite a big bandwidth. Now, let's go and have a look at the XA2s as standard. Let's look at the standard XA2s. Receiver ultra range. Is it the X? No, it won't be the ultra range. It'll be long range. So these ones for the HDZero. Same spec range. Let's go to his standard ones. Same spec range. So, what this tells us is that Hugo has done nothing specific for the antennas for the DJI goggles too. So that rules that out, okay? That's just the bandwidth. Just the bandwidth of the antenna as standard. Where said the video you actually should publish is the one showing the bad bit rate. Yeah, I did 2 tests, and I might put that one on now. Let me just find it. So if we... Let me come off this screen because I have to be very careful not to show something on here. Exported. Is it this one? Let me just check. Okay, now I just want to demonstrate what I'm seeing on a walk test. Yes. So, let me just mute this and put this on the screen. So, what you're seeing here is me about to do a walk test on the O3 system, okay, with the new setting that I've got, which is showing 5.1 gigs, okay? So, at the moment, the system is in 5.1 gigs. And the way I did this test is I mount the air unit in here in the workshop fixed, and I go walking with the goggles. It's the simplest way to do it. And what I want to show you is the behavior of what happens when the signal starts to drop and what it does with the bit rates. And Wes was talking about this just now. Now, I need to move myself. So I'm going to take myself off screen for this a minute, okay? Because I'm in the way. So I'm going to take myself off. And what I want you to do is keep an eye on the bit rates, okay? Down here. So this up here is the 50 megabits band. Let me just get my mouse highlighter so you guys can see. So this is the 50 megabits. This is the 50 megabits carrier on the 5.1 gigs band. I know you can't see it very well because the camera's looking at the screen, but that's what you're seeing, okay? 5.1 gigs. And what you want to see is watch the bit rate and watch what happens. So I'm going to talk you through this as we move through. So I've paused it a second just to talk at the start of the video, and then I'm going to show you what happens as I do a walk test. So we'll just wait for it a sec. At some point it kicks back in and I start the walking. There we go. So what I'm doing now is I'm now walking off and watch the bit rate and just watch it, and I get about 30 yards, and look, it's dropping very quickly, dropping, and then it got to 19 megs, and let me just pause, it dropped, okay, and it's jumped back up to 5.8 gigs. You can see the carrier vanished. So if I come back, the carrier's on 5.1, The bitrate drops to a certain level, boom, the carrier jumps back to 5.8. However, watch what happens. The bitrate now, it's jumped to 5.8, jumps straight back up to 50 megabits a second. The system then thinks it's okay, and it jumps back down to 5.1 gigs by itself. So, to explain again, we were at 5.1, the bitrate dropped, it jumped to 5.8, the bitrate increased because it went back to 5.8, and then it's jumped back down to 5.1. The bitrate now is starting to drop again, 15, 16, 20, and you can see it's jumped and it's gone down, and it's gone back, and this is where it gets really interesting. It starts jumping back and forth. The bitrate drops, it jumps back to 5.8 gig, the bitrate gets back up to the full 50 megabits a second, then it jumps back down to 5.1 gig, the bitrate drops because it can't handle it, and then it jumps back up to 5.8, and it does this constant cycling on the video. You see it just jump back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Bitrate drops, boom, back up to 5.8, bitrate increases, boom, comes back down, and it's just doing this constant hopping back and forth. Now, there is a point where I go for a wander, and what you will see is the signal actually drop for a second. And what I do at this point in a minute is take it to the point of loss to see what happens. So again, it's jumped back down, it's jumping back and forth. And it ends up doing this strange thing where on the cusp, it's just hopping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we'll see in a sec, it's staying up at that high bit rate. You'll see this image freeze in a sec, I think it is. And what that is, you'll get a signal loss in a minute. And then what you'll then see is it come back, and that's me testing it. Given that where's this comment? Given that it isn't changing power as it switches, the only thing that explains it is bad bitrate and antenna tune. Yeah, and that's the real interesting thing. And it's just, look, jump down to 4 megabits. 13, 14, and it's staying now in this, and it's gone again. Bitrate jumps back up instantly, comes back down. It's just doing this yo-yoing, look, back and forth. And as Wes has said, we believe the reason for this is because the antenna tuning is terrible at 5.1 gig. Now, that's the point where I went out of range. Okay, and what I was testing now was it basically at the cusp of range, and what it then did was stay in the 5.8 gig band until I came back. And then you'll see it kick back in a minute. And this is the easiest way for me to test it. Why doesn't it just stay on the stronger signal? That is a very interesting question, Joker. 100%. 100%. So, the behavior I've observed is, here it will stay on 5.1 fine until the signal starts to drop. When the signal starts to drop, it then jumps to 5.8, and then the bitrate jerks back up because everything's good. But then it goes, oh, as everything's good, I'm going to jump back down to 5.1. And then it gets back into that cycle of, but the signal isn't good down at 5.1, bitrate drops, and it jumps back up to 5.8. And the only reason we can think for this, as Wes has already said in the chat, is antenna tune. It's the only logical explanation. Now, this behavior is horrible. There is no other term to use for it. It is horrible. If this is intentional, they need to end it now. There's no good reason to have this feature. There is no good reason for O3 to go on 5.1 gigs. There's just no need for it. Complete waste of time for everyone. We don't have antennas largely tuned for that bandwidth. We're not set up for use in that bandwidth. We're not expecting it. Could use a 5.1 gig and one potentially, but we'd have to test it. You could use a dual antenna potentially. But whatever this is just messed up. It should not do it. It's just not right, in my opinion. And whilst there's been a playing down of, oh, well, it's using 5.1 gigs, it is much more than that. There are more people, as time goes on, posting issues with O3. They're getting strange behavior and they can't explain it. I bet it's this. I bet it's this quirk. Now, we don't know how this behaves out in the field fully. It's really hard to test. We don't know how it behaves at range. It's not going to be easy to tell. But what I do know is there is something messed up with what I'm seeing, and it is not right. Now, I do have a second video which I want to show you, which is also quite interesting because I managed to get it to do something quite dull. And that is, I get it to go on 3 different frequencies at the same time. Now, let me just find where that is, because it's quite fun. Right, I think it's here. Here we go. Right. Is it this one? Let me just check. Just need to get it in the right place. Yeah, right, here we go. So this is quite fun, this is. So, this is currently the O3 system, right? So I'm going to put my camera back on for this because you don't need me covering at the side because we don't need to look at bitrate. So, this is the O3 system on. We're on 5.8 gigs at the moment. So, what we currently have on 5.8 is these are the video carriers, right? These are, sorry, let me rephrase that. This is the telemetry from the ear unit, not the video carrier. Sorry, I was thinking one thing and saying something else. So we're on 5.8. This here is the telemetry from the ear unit to the goggles, not video, just telemetry. Okay, transmitting on 5.8 gigs. Okay, I then scroll it down to 5.2 or 5.190, and we have our video carrier. And then I scroll down to 2.4, and we have our RC link and goggles telemetry carrier. So at this point, we have the O3 system on 3 separate frequencies. Again, we'll go back up. Ear unit telemetry. What you saw then, right? Look at this. Let me go back here. You'll see very quickly there, the RC and goggles telemetry come back. And then it will vanish again. And it's hop back down to 2.4. So the RC, look, we've only got ear unit telemetry here. Back and forth. Then the goggles and the RC link reappear and disappear. They think, oh, I'm going to pop back up to 5.8. And it'll do it again in a second. And this is because I'm very close to it on the bench. But then it goes. So then we have, yeah, there they are. They decided to reappear. And boom. And this is how I can tell you the 2 different carriers, right? So if I just go back to here a second, wait for those carriers to come up. So at the moment, this is next to the ear unit. So this is why this carrier is strong. So this is the telemetry link out of the O3 ear unit. Could this be remote ID? Possibly. We do not know what this carrier is. It is a telemetry carrier of some forth that bounces back and forth. There. You can see it. Wait for those ones to disappear. There you go. Back and forth. And there's also these little carriers down here. Don't forget these little ones here. Look. There's a couple of little ones there. It's hard for me to there. There's one there. There's one there. There's all of these little carriers bouncing about. They could be remote ID. And that's not me being tinfoil hat. They genuinely could be. Now, let me just get back to where those other carriers appeared a minute because I just want to show you, right, these. So, what you've got here is the tall ones are the remote controller. The lower ones are the goggles because the goggles is further away a minute. That's the easiest way to explain them because the goggles are the other part away from the spectrum analyzer. But again, it's just super interesting that we get, once we get past this, we get the system on 3 different frequencies at the same time. So, wait for this to shoot. Telemetry from the ear unit, 5.8, bouncing back and forth quite happily. I then scroll down. We think, you know what, this is bonkers. Let's get to where I scroll down. Wait for it. I'll get there in a minute. I'm just not showing the video where I scroll down. So there we go. So there, we're talking about them there. We then scroll down to 2.4, and then we have the goggles and the RC. Now, I do have the DJI RC connected at this moment. The only way, remember, O3 goes to 2.4 gigs is with the DJI RC in the link. I have never observed the O3 system. I have, but I haven't. I don't think, I'm 95% the O3 system will go on to 2.4 without the DJI remote. Now, when you're looking at these carriers here for the DJI remote, the lower ones are the goggles, the higher ones are the remote, because the remote's closer to the spectrum analyzer. And then you've got all these extra carriers here as well. And then when I scroll a bit further down to... go up, because we're on 2.4. Because you can only go up from 2.4. On 5.8, we have those ones. And then on 5.1, where is it? We've got the video. There it is. So we scroll down, and then we got the O3 video carrier there. Like that. So, that's the craziness. That's the crazy. Oh, hello, Robert. How are you? Robert Rosso, welcome. Let me just catch back up on the chat a minute. So, Pro drone antennas. I'm not sure. We'll have a look in a minute. Does the system work properly? Isn't it just frequency hopping to avoid interference? It shouldn't be hopping to 5.1 gigs. Nowhere in the O3 spec, nowhere in any of the certified FCC or C documentation has this system been tested at those frequencies. If this is normal, DJI have had to have it recertified. Nowhere has this system legally been certified for these frequencies. So just outside the fact of have they added it in a firmware update, it would still need to be retested for full certification, and I've not seen any evidence of that anyway. In fact, the specs specifically state it can only transmit video on 5 gigs. That is specific in the FCC filings and the CE filings. The fact they are intermittently running RC and telemetry on 5.8 proves O3 could run on V1 goggles. 100%, Mr. Anderson. The very fact that O3 works on the V2 goggles tells you that they could do it. They could limit it to 5 gigs and use it on the V1s. Just like on the V2s. You'd have the same performance. They absolutely could. All they would need to do is lock O3 to 5 gigs, and it could then write the software and make it work with the V1s. They can do that. No, I haven't tried it. The joystick doesn't work with FPV, Louis. It doesn't work at all. We're on Faraday cage hats at this point. That's funny. Robert Rosser, hiya. Thank you. Welcome to the stream, my friend. Isn't your wife accidentally using the microwave? Yeah, I'm not close enough for that thing to be involved. Have I already talked about Avatar? No, I haven't. So, yeah, it's a weird, weird system. There's something wrong. I fundamentally believe this is broken. All my goggles are. But I don't see how mine would want to go. I can literally make it do it like that now. And it only happens on the new firmware. If I go to the old firmware, it stops doing it. So it's a bug. It's a real bug in the system. But yeah, look, people can play it down. I think it is potentially a big problem. Simply because... no, it's just software, Louis. They've never allowed that controller with FPV. They've just disabled it. It's all the same unit. It's even the same unit inside. It's just they don't allow that unit to be used with O3. Just like they don't allow half the other stuff to work because they choose not to. Just like they choose not to allow the V1s to work. And I've said, there's technically no reason the V1s can't be made to work. Just lock O3 to 5 gigs. Look, I firmly believe O3 should be locked to 5 gigs, period. I don't even like the fact the remote will go back and forth. I would be overall prefer it was locked to 5 gigs. I think it would probably be better overall. Yes, Wi-Fi can cause it to thing, but it should only jump within the band it's designed to jump within. You know, yes, Wi-Fi basically doesn't really move it in here. O3 will tend to destroy most things. The only thing I have found will move O3, and I do have that video of it, is Avatar. Generally, O3 will overstep Wi-Fi, not the other way around. That's generally what I found. It tends to just blurt over everything else. But even then, it will hop in its area. What it shouldn't do is hop outside of that area. Again, there is no published spec for DJI running this on this frequency. Hello, Cliff. How are you? Okay, so that's it with O3. I think it's broken. I think they need to fix it. I genuinely think it's a pretty big deal. Now, before we move on from O3, I am going to talk quickly. Not so much. Actually, I'm going to take that off. So, before I move on from O3, I want to talk about the log situation. Now, I put a video up this week where everyone sort of got bent out of shape over what I said. And look, I'm going to be crystal clear. My opinion remains the same with regards to DJI's logging. I don't agree with what they're doing is necessary or the fact of they don't allow you to control it. However, obviously, I made the video where we talked about the login. And after that, a couple of great people reached out to me. Junus reached out and a few others. And look, a tool has now been released that allows you to view your logging data. Now, I don't know if it wasn't strictly done by the guys at fpv.wtf, but it was done by one of the devs. Let me just get my mouse pointer off because I can't see. Let me just find it. It'll be on YouTube. And there is now a way of downloading the logs. Now, I've had a chance to have a look through the logs. And look, I never said for 1 minute that DJI was stealing your data. And I never said for 1 minute that there was lots of bad things. However, I have 8 years of experience with DJI and DJI products. And I have seen almost every leak, hack issue, data breach, and everything they have. And my experience has always taught me that they are genuinely erring on the side of doing something a little bit dodgy here and there. They've been caught on a number of occasions. Now, just because we're not seeing anything doesn't mean that they're behaving 100%. But more than that, the fact is they are not allowing users to delete the logs. And I don't care if there is no personal information in there. There is personal information in the sense of the serial number, the amount of times the air unit has been turned on is in there, things like that. It's genuinely mostly mundane data. But I still do not agree with the fact they will let you remove them, or won't let you remove them, I should say. Further to that, I still don't believe the ends justify the means. And what I mean by that is this. So we have air units log in roughly 5 gigs worth of data in total, okay? That's every air unit is logging that data. If we think about the amount of warranty claims DJI have based on that and how much info they get from that, say their failure rate is 1%. Does it warrant logging all of that data for the 1%? Whereas my issue here is actually less about the fact they're logging. My issue is they're not allowing you to delete it. And I'd actually have no problem with DJI saying, if you delete the logs, we may not cover the warranty. But I still do not believe the ends justify the means, especially when they are not being transparent. And nothing has changed on that. Nothing has changed. Now, I get it on camera drones, okay? Because I helped do a lot of stuff. I get on camera drones, it makes sense. Where it doesn't make sense is if you sell, let's just look at this on an arbitrary number. Let's say you sell 1 million products or 10,000 products and you do the 1%. That doesn't justify the means. If there's a problem, you could ask the user to turn on extended login. What I don't agree with is that it needs this level of login all of the time. And the fact is, more than anything, that you can't delete them. That is where my big issue is. If you're going to put it in there, give the user the option of deleting it. And if you want to turn around and say, we won't cover the warranty if you do that, that's absolutely fine. But the fact remains, they don't let you view or delete the logs. Now, there is a way you can view them, and I haven't had time to dig into it too much. I just haven't had it. There's some interesting stuff in there from a technical standpoint. And look, the tech guys will always say the more login, the better. But actually, I always walk on both sides of the fence. I am a tech guy, but I also err on the side of what is reasonable and what I think is proportionate for the issue. And we can say that they log all of this data because it helps them fix the system. But if they're not getting 99.9% of that data, then what is the point of logging it in the first place? And that is where my problem is. I'm not saying the data isn't helpful. I'm not saying the data cannot be used to improve the system. What I'm saying is they're logging all of this data and 99% of it is probably never being seen. So if that is the case, why log it in the first place? It's that simple. And my argument isn't that, it's you're logging something that you're potentially never going to see. And that's the thing with it. And that's where my issue is. And the fact is, they don't let you delete them. If there was a deleting, if there was a way of deleting it, brilliant. Let it go. But I'm not saying they're stealing. And actually, I don't believe they're stealing anyone's data. I never have. There are times where I think they've had stuff in their logs which is a bit unusual. And look, they used to take still images. They did used to put still images in all of the logs. For those who used to know, before AData, it used to be a different one. You download the logs and then you'd see that there were stills. Yes, but this isn't GA and this isn't used for safety. So if we're going to throw the safety argument at it, this isn't for 1 minute used for safety. This is used for DJI's internal processes. And that's where my issue is. If you were logging, let's just say you were logging basic data for a flight. I get it. Now, I know, and actually the fact is, a lot of the data is blind DSP stuff to do with the RF side of things. And there's that argument of they giving that information out would basically compromise their own security and their IP. I 100% agree. Then don't log it en masse. It's that simple. If you're logging that much, then don't log it en masse. My point is, you log proportionally to what is useful. And that comes down to many things. It's the same with CCTV in the UK. It's many things. A data log should be proportional. That system logging all of that data for the life of the ear unit and DJI may never see it is pointless. I can't delete it. I can now see it, potentially. Not all of it, but we can see some of it. It's neither useful to me or helpful to me. And again, DJI go out of their way to make it so you can't see it. And it's that simple. So at the end of the day, what they're doing, the ends don't justify the means. And that's largely and we're talking about FPV here. And we're not used to having products that log this much in FPV, okay? The Avatar system, we believe, logs as well. Not remotely as much as this, or the same stuff, I should say, to the same level. Rolling last 10 minutes would likely capture the most incidents and mishaps. Cliff, 100%. Hell, the last 3 flights, my air unit had 100 logs on it. 100 logs. I'm sorry, there is no world where that amount of logging is necessary. That's the argument here. It's not the fact they log. It's not the fact that that data might be useful. The fact is, where the hell do 100 logs be necessary and 5 gigs of data? No, not necessarily 100, 700 megabytes logs. No, agreed. But it's still 100 logs. There's still 100 logs of the boots, whatever. And again, as I've said, where is that proportionate? And look, as a user, if I don't find it acceptable, I'm going to talk about it. And I don't care if the logs don't have majorly sensitive data. They have enough for me to go, interesting. So, yeah, look, that's where my stance is on it. At the end of the day, I think on all their products, DJI should allow users to remove the logs. And look, let users have some of the basic data out of the log. It's bloody useful. It's that simple. I'm not saying give everything up, but at least give some of it. And I'm not saying they're better or worse than anyone else, but what I'm saying is you do need to understand that they are doing this. You do need to understand that they are doing something which we're not used to in FPV. That's a reality. We're not used to having products in FPV do this. And part of the reason I even made the video was to say, look, this is something in FPV you might not be used to. And look, as I said, I need to have time. There will probably be a follow-up on this at some point. Look, there's far too much other stuff going on a minute because overall, the fundamentals don't change. I never said in that video they're stealing your wife and kids and your family and all of this stuff. So I've got nothing I need to rebut in it. Would I like to go over the logs? Probably. And spend some time looking at it? Yes. But there's no great change here to anything that I've said. What I said in the video is we officially still don't know. And we don't. We know now what's in there. Or at least some of what's in there. We don't know everything, but we know enough that largely shows that it's fine. There's nothing dodgy. But that doesn't change the fact that they're A, still doing the login, B, you still don't have control over it, C, it's disproportionate for the benefit. And my opinion on that remains the same. That's it. So I'll cover it at some point. It ain't going to be this week. There is something useful in looking at the logs, but I want to fully understand how we use that data. There's some interesting stuff in there, nothing really. But again, this is more about control. Give the user the control. It's as simple as that. Anyway, so that's the DJI login thing. Let me just catch up on the chat. Does the log contain GPS data on the Avatar? I've not looked. Again, I've not had chance. I've been trying to get a video finished for 3 days because of the weather. Well, 2 days, sorry. It's Friday night I started. And, yeah. everything else. Does it contain GPS data on the Avata? Probably. Probably does contain GPS data on the Avata. I'd be astonished if it didn't. All of the older logs used to. So if you look at the old logs you used to get, it'll have they always had GPS position and all of the usual basic stuff. For those who used to remember, what was it called before A-Data? Does anyone remember what the website was called before A-Data? It was A-Data turned in, the website turned into A-Data. And I can't remember what it was called. You know, I've been looking at DJI logs for 7 years plus. I just can't remember what the website was called. There was a website, A-Data turned into it, but I can't remember what it was before they bought it. And you used to be able to download the logs off your aircraft, upload it, and it stored them all on there. And it did stuff like it showed you the images that they'd taken in it, because they used to take random images in the logs and stuff like that as well. So, you know, nothing. It was always a bit weird. Why have you taken an image of that tree? So, yes. Okay. So, it's time to talk about Walksnail. Now, there's been a very interesting post on Facebook today and many places today about Walksnail. And let me just get myself ready. And that interesting post is this. There is a test firmware out for the Avatar system, which is bringing, hopefully, we're going to have spectator mode. Now, they have been working on it for some while. I do actually have a beta firmware, but my one doesn't seem to have this. I don't know what version this beta firmware is, but this gentleman is showing what spectator mode looks like first of all. I know everyone's sitting there right now screaming, going, "You what? Spectator mode? What are you talking about?" Bear with me. But yes, someone's showing a video of spectator mode. And what's actually really quite good in this, right, is just look how decent that looked. That didn't look too bad. Look, you're not going to get a perfect spectator mode. Anyone who thinks they are, it's not going to happen. There's going to be breakup because you can't have a two-way link and have a third part in that and it just work perfectly. It looks decent. So Vapors FPV has shown it, and I think this looks all right. I think this looks okay. So that's the first bit of news today on Avatar HD. Now, there has been some other posts on Avatar HD as well. Let me stop that video because that's in the corner of my eye. But I can't talk about them. And I can't show them. Because I'd probably get myself into trouble. Now, someone posted something in the chat. Josh Fisk, Avatar Pro Kit is coming. Painless 360 accidentally posted his video earlier today. Wow. Okay. I'm not sure I can talk about this until tomorrow. Okay. What I'm going to say is this. And if I get into trouble, I'll get into trouble. I'm not going to share any pictures. I'll let people think. Right. Number one, be very careful what you think, you know. Okay? Wait for the full announcement. Wait. Because if you've seen the video, that's something different. I can't comment on... I haven't seen maybe a video that someone accidentally put live. I haven't seen that. Okay, so... But what you also have to understand is there's a lot of confusion online right now. I'm seeing things getting tangled up that are not quite correct. Okay? What I am going to say to you is this, and this is where I might get myself in trouble. If you're sitting here expecting an O3 equivalent, it's not happening. Okay? Not happening. That's not what you're getting. Cadex have developed the system, and they're continuing to develop the system. And I think what might or might not be coming is a nice step forward with maybe some nice features. It could be more than one thing. Just bear that in mind. That's where you've got to be careful. However, overall, I think it's interesting times. Now, I know there's been leaks and images, and I do feel for a person. 2 watt VTX. Wow, that's something new. I didn't know about that. There's a lot of work to be done on the system still. It's not perfect. People have been saying things like, oh, we're going to see a 4K DVR. I can't imagine that. There's no new... It's not a new system. Just wait. You've got a bit. Just wait. You'll know tomorrow. Don't worry. All your gear still works. Nothing's changing. It's not an O3. Don't worry. Calm down. Everyone's sitting there going, you got it. No. The system only launched in August, September last year. You're not getting... Just look up Info FPV Avatar HD pictures. Tomorrow is here in 12 minutes. Yeah, there is a time. But look, okay, what I'll say is this. I have a video coming on this tomorrow. And look, here's something I'm going to tell you is this. That video is... Let me just check it. And this will tell you how much there is to talk about. Let me just check something, because I can't remember... I'm going to warn you now. It's over 45 minutes. It's over 45 minutes. So there's a lot to talk about. Do an oops and change screen. Just a lot to talk about. And to cover it all properly, it ended up taking me that long. I did raise an eyebrow when I was told how long someone else's video was. I was like, 13 minutes? Wow, you did well. Now, the system continues to be developed. Everyone will be... Some people will be happy, some people won't. I think it's all right. That's what we'll have to do. I can't talk anymore. I'll get into trouble. But just let's tame these expectations a little bit is what I will say. Tame the expectations. Some of the stuff I've seen is crazy. I have talked about the new Walksnail stuff. I have talked about the fact that there's a beta firmware for the Avatar HD system that has the spectator mode working. That's what that title was about. There's something coming. Yeah, firmware with spectator mode. That's what's officially coming. That's the official. But if someone wants me to break an NDA, it's not going to happen. $256 cards in O3 is great. Yeah, that's not a bad way of doing it. Look, the spectator mode is really good. I think that'll be interesting. And look, that looks a lot better than DJI spectator mode. A lot better. DJI's was terrible. Terrible upon release. So, that's what we can talk about today. I'm sorry if that doesn't fill the needs of people on the stream, but that is reality. Now, I'm going to have a couple of minutes for questions before we wrap this one up. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat now. Not related to that, because I can't answer them. Like milking a cow. No, I don't know what people expect. 9 minutes I can tell. No, I can't. Teasing new Walksnail stuff in the title, but you cannot tell anything because you're under A. Really? I put in the title about what I intended to talk about, which was the new firmware for spectator mode. If you interpreted that as anything else, then that's down to you, not me. Let me be blatantly clear with you on that. I never said a thing. What I said was something new. The exact words are, and let me bring the title up. Something from Walksnail, question mark. Yes. That firmware. If people interpreted that as something else, then I'm sorry, that's not my problem. Do I have a contact to Immersion RC? Tony T, something big coming? No, I don't. I've spoke to Tony once. He seemed a nice guy when I spoke to him. I don't know Immersion RC. Could be. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked if they actually got into the digital market. New VHS recording system for the VTX. So when does O4 come out? In the future. In the future. What I'll say is this. If people think I'm going to break an agreement a day early, sure, but then don't tease, just upload tomorrow. No, I intended to talk about the firmware because that's not in tomorrow's video. That has nothing to do with tomorrow's video. I'm sorry, Snail Walker FPV, but that was your interpretation, not mine. That video has been released after anything else that came today. It is not my problem if people want to interpret something in a way. It is not clickbait. It is not anything but the intended conversation. Just because that's the conversation that people don't want, that's not really my problem. Spicy me. That's me being clear. I do feel for the person who accidentally may have done something, because that's just a bad position to be in, because why is it that everyone took screenshots of it and uploaded it? That's a nightmare. But look, I could choose to talk about what's been posted on into FPV if I wanted to, but I'd be sitting here telling you I can't say anything personal on that. I can't say anything personal on that. What I will say is this. Apparently, images have been posted online of a future unreleased product in relation to the Avatar system. At this moment in time, I can't comment on them. There you go. That's my official response. Right, folks. Before I go, no things, just for your good information and content. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the $2. Is that $2? €2. Why do I think Happy Model sells multiple quads with the PH2 connectors? As soon as their batteries sag issues, they support. Tell us to change BT2. Yeah. There's some of that stuff over there. Yeah. I'm not a big one on the small ones, but I do know. Haven't they just released someone just released a load of new batteries with new connectors as well? I saw it this week. So that's it from me. Stay safe. We'll be back again same time next week. There's a very long video coming tomorrow. Probably forgotten something. Probably missed it out. Mine will be after everyone else's. Mine will not be before 6 p.m. UK time. Because that's when I intend to release it. And everything else will be out by then, probably. But that'll be it. I'm sorry. There are reasons I post things at certain times. So, anyway, that's it from me. Look after yourself. Same time, same place next week. I'll speak to you soon. Now I gotta try and find the end button. You can never... I need to prep better to end in a live stream. Anyways, later.